it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to create the simplest pop-up card that I know. This is one of my favorite go-tos and I kind of can't believe I haven't shared one of these on here before. So all you need to do is to create 2 separate panels. This is going to create our card base. Now my panels are going to be 4.5 inches square. And so what you need to do on one end, create a flap that is, I find 1/2 inch is good, but you can make it 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch extra. So these are actually 4.5 by 5 inches. And I have scored a little line down 1/2 inch there to create a little flap. So we have our 4.5 by 4.5 and then a little 1/2 inch, and these are going to go together to create our card base. But let's put these to the side because we are going to start decorating. Now, this is the fun part. I have this Lawn Fawn corner rainbow stencil. Now, actually, this creates sort of 2 different, there's a corner stencil and then like a, I don't know, one of the rainbows is sort of more off to the edge. So I'm going to use the one that's sort of more truly in the corner. This one here down the bottom creates off to the edge. So I'm going to use the top one and I'm just going to use a few inks. Now, this is unlike me. I don't usually try and coordinate inks and then pattern papers to go together because, yeah, it just takes a moment to think about it. But today I am. I'm going to use some soft stone, lemon drop, jelly bean green, and some dark chocolate dye inks. These happen to be from Gina. It doesn't matter where your inks are from. You can have any decoration here. Now, this is just the simplest pop-up card that I know. So we are creating the front here. So bear in mind that this, the world is your absolute oyster when it comes to what you can create a card on. You might be into the gorgeous little gnomes or the snails or the mushrooms. You might want to just use ephemera to create the front. You might want to use some die cuts put together. You might want to use stencils and do some inking. You might want to use some sprays. You can use whatever you like. Rub-ons are stunning. That would work too. You could use collage paper, you could use tissue paper, rice paper. You can create using so many different things in paper crafting, and that is what is exciting. So today I have chosen to use a stencil. Now this is most definitely not a traditional rainbow color scheme. I actually just chose 4 random colors, and honestly I usually take the easy option and I sort of use like pattern paper or something to help me choose the color scheme. But today I will say that these were the top 4 colors and I thought, yeah, I will give those a go. They were just sitting one on top of the other and they looked okay next to each other. So yeah, I quite like it. Now I'm doing the yellow. I actually end up doing the yellow twice. The first time I end up doing it really quite light down the bottom, and then I'm going to do a much heavier version at the end, and that way it kind of looks like we've used 2 inks. But if you don't have 2 inks, then by all means, use one and just use one a lighter portion and one a heavier portion, and they will look different. Now these inks also smooth out a whole lot, which is something I love about these ones. So don't worry if you don't get like the most perfect blend straight off. I am using some blending brushes. These are my favorite. They're actually not a brush. They're more like a foam piece on the end of a handle, a domed foam. I can't even describe them. These are what I have had the absolute most luck with when it comes to getting a smooth blend. And I only have 5 brushes for every single color. So that way it means I just, wipe it off a bit or rub it off a bit on some scrap paper and then move on to the next one in the same color family, and that has just been the easiest way for me. Now I am going to die cut out a gorgeous circle out of this pattern paper here, and then at this point I was thinking, shall I add this as a matting layer as well? And actually, the colors are a bit crazy, but I think they work together. Well, they work together for me anyway, and that's what's most important. It doesn't matter necessarily what other people think. It's about the joy that I got out of creating this card for sure. Now, I have the tea time sentiments. You guys, if you've watched my channel, I have got this tea set, this tea die set, or this mug die set, should I say, and I am just loving it. It's something a little bit different for me, not too different, of course, but a little bit different for me, and I am loving using it. And so I have a couple of stamp sets. This one is, as I said, the tea time sentiments, although I will say, for me, that's a funny name for it because actually there's more coffee related sentiments in this one, in my opinion. This is actually here, the Slim Grip Sticky Matte. This is the white one, and this is from Altenew. Now, this is 7.5 by 7.5 inches, and for me, to fit this in my stamping platform, I did have to cut it. But I am trying this out as to how I like this as a sticky base to my stamp platforms. Now, I have my stamp platforms that I absolutely love. I have no plans in getting new ones or different ones. There are lots of amazing things coming out on the market, but I have what I need and it works well for me and it stores well in my space. But I am loving using that sticky matte. I've had it for a bit now and yeah, I do like it. I probably would purchase those again. It depends on how long it lasts me. It needs to last a good amount of time, but at the moment, it was a good price point for how long I've been using it for. So I will keep you updated. Now, here is where we get to make the card. So these two pieces come together. And this is the mug set that I was telling you about that I have been using over and over again, and I love that it has the stitching inside and out because that means that you can use this for not only the gorgeous die cuts that you get, but you also get stitching left over as well, so you can use it for different techniques. Now on the back here, the pattern, not so pretty, just because of where it came from. So I have actually die cut out another mug and I have just cut off the handle, and that will work together really nicely. But also because I thought I would do some floating features with this little pop-up card. So actually having two popped together is going to work out well. These here, this is just the white where I die cut some of the steam and I've just left it in there gently for just a minute. And then I've got a little bit of clear acetate. As I said, I'm going to have a couple of floating images, floating pieces of the steam coming out the top of the coffee mug. And so I'm just taking a little slim piece of acetate, choosing which ones I want here, what I want to go above the mug. I know they're a little bit hard to see, but it will be clearer once they are against the backdrop. And I think I have them how I want them set out, and I'm just going to pop these on a little piece of acetate. Now, I forgot to put any double-sided adhesive on the back of these when I die cut them, so I am going to use just some liquid glue, but actually it's going to work out just fine. It will dry, and particularly this art glitter glue, which dries very, very, very fast, I will say, that's going to work well for acetate. But generally on acetate, I like to use a dry adhesive, but it's working well. Now, I do want to cover the back of these, and of course the die kind of cuts the wrong way. It leaves that edge. So I find if you run a sharp edge or your bone folder over top of it, it flattens out the edges that die cutting leaves, and you can put the die cut on backwards without it looking like it's on backwards. Does that make sense? I don't think I explained that very well, but nonetheless, we've got the front and the back covered here, and if you spill any extra glue out the side, you can just scrape it off gently, and that is one of the beauties of it being on acetate. Now, when it comes to the inside of the cup here, my trick is to adhere. Add plenty of sticky tape or double-sided tape or glue, because we don't want any of this coming apart. Now, I have my little piece of steam here on the acetate, and I'm going to sit that just above the coffee cup. When I put my hand behind it, you can see it a lot better. And then with this part, there are two ways that you can do it. I like to use a little piece of acetate like I have here, and this is what I trap in between the bottom layers. If you have an image that has kind of, I don't know, something like a long flower with a long stem, or that you could also put it further down into the fold, then you don't necessarily need this acetate. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So the acetate, as I said, adhere. Plenty of double-sided tape down here. I take off one side of it, and then I'm going to get that little rectangle that I cut of acetate before and put it down the bottom so that there's about, less than that half an inch, because we've only got half an inch of fold to work with. And then I take this off the other side. I'm actually going to add in liquid glue as well, because as I said, I don't want this opening up. I don't want anything shifting around, so I'm going to make sure it's very secure. And so we have that little piece of acetate poking out the bottom, as well as the steam coming out the top of the mug. Now, this is sort of one of the reasons that I like to do a card front and not do it directly onto the card base, because after I've put in all that effort on the card front, I don't want to muck up this part of it and then kind of have it ruined. So that's generally why I do a separate card front and separate base, and then I put them together. Now, this is obviously very easy. Those two folded pieces are going to go together. I want to have some good double-sided tape, or you can use liquid glue here, as I said, but I prefer, because I'm going to pop that piece of acetate in it, I prefer to use dry adhesive. Now, this is where I said, if you have an image that you can kind of pop further down, then you don't need the acetate. But for me, I want the mug to be sitting up. So I'm going to, that's why I've got the acetate hanging down the bottom, and that's the bit that is going to go in between. And then you could actually add like a little bit of pattern paper or something to be like a picnic rug or a table, you know, that the cup was sitting on, but we're keeping this plain and simple. Now look, here we go. Here we have a gorgeous pop-up card. As I said, this is one of the most simple versions of to create a pop-up card, and that's the reason why I love it. Now I have another piece of paper from the same paper pad, and I'm just going to cut this to simply put up the top behind this. I quite like the idea that this almost looks like a, you know, like a tablecloth or a rug or a picnic blanket, you know, or something like that. It has that kind of gingham pattern that looks nice. So we've got our little teacup or our coffee cup standing straight up. And this one on the front, I stamped the coffee and a ketchup stamp. And so for this one, I'm going to stamp, "You really mean a latte to me." And I will stamp that across the middle here. As I said, most of these are more, I would say more coffee. There is a few tea, cup of tea sentiments in this one. But I have another gorgeous little mini stamp set from Trinity Stamps. And that one is called the Punny Cup of Tea. And that is a great one for cups of tea. Right, I've got everything stamped, and now I can just put on my front panel on the front here, and then I have my little circle with the sentiment. I'm going to pop that up on a little bit of foam tape. I actually use the 1 inch wide 1mm foam tape, but I doubled it up so it's 2, and then this is our gorgeous finished card. So I love this one. I absolutely love this. As I said, it's one of the most simple pop-ups, and it's kind of no fail. This is sort of my style of pop-up card. Very, very simple, and really, really fun for the recipient to open up, and a little bit unexpected. So I hope that you enjoyed this version of my pop-up card today, and as usual, I will have everything linked in the description box below. I also have my snail mail address down there if you would like to send me an actual card in the mail. I would love that. And then I also have a couple more things down there, including a link to my website, which you should go and check out. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate your comments and the community that we have. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.